Welcome to the Open Books Podcast, where we discuss all things going on in the real estate industry, helping you take the road less traveled to real estate success, guiding you to the top 10%. I'm your co-host, Curtis Haddock, alongside my co-hosts, Brooke Massey and Casey Tudor. What's going on, guys? Good morning. How are you guys doing?
That was a very positive, upbeat intro.
Yeah, well, you know,
normally you kind of go low in with Brooke Massey and Casey Tudor.
I didn't appreciate
like, welcome to the Open Books
guys.
Podcast, and I'm here with Brooke Massey and Casey Tudor.
You're supposed to usually announce me first, so I didn't really care for the
I
intro.
did think about that,
That's
actually,
okay.
and I thought, you know what? I think Brooke deserves to be first this time.
And
Thank you,
and
ladies
it's okay
first.
to not be first. Okay, I can.
No, if you're not first, you're last.
Well, in this
I was probably high when I said that, Ricky.
Yeah. In this case, it's true because technically you're the last one announced. Because I'm always the first one announced because I'm the one
Save
doing
the best
it.
for last. That's what they always say. So my mom always told me.
You know what? I'll humble myself next time, and I'll say mine last.
Okay.
We'll
you guys
see.
just wait.
Stay
yeah,
tuned.
See watch the next episode and see if Curtis announces himself last.
Watch you do it, but then we don't post it next.
Yeah, right. No, we're going to post it. We got to post it next. We got to remember the episode after this one.
Okay.
Well, let's get on to some more important topics.
I know.
Some hot important topics.
I don't think people care about the order of our announcements, of our name announcements. What are we talking about today, Brooke?
Buyer broker agreement.
Man.
What the heck is that?
A BBA.
What?
You heard me.
Speak English, Doc.
BBA.
That's a pretty hot topic right now. I think everyone's talking about the buyer broker agreement.
Yep.
Why is that? Is that what you were meant to say?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, okay. Why do we care about the buyer broker agreement? Well,
Because it's the new standard.
it's the new standard. I mean, now everyone has to have one. I guess I was thinking about this. You could get away with not having one, I
What?
guess.
Someone find this man.
It would be a very, very rare circumstance. I mean, you would have to have a buyer. If a buyer reached out to you, because the rule is you need a written agreement. It doesn't even have to be a buyer broker agreement. It has to be
okay.
a written
I was like, please elaborate.
has to be a written agreement. I'm going to elaborate more because you don't even need this written agreement either in some very rare cases,
Dun,
you guys.
dun, dun.
But you have to have a written agreement to show property. So if a buyer reaches out to you and says, I want to make an offer on this house, then
Just make the offer.
find out what the commission is. If they're not offering a commission, you're going to want to do a buyer broker agreement. But if they are offering a commission, then you just got to do your compensation agreement depending on whatever state you're in. Make sure you choose the right one. And there you go. You don't have a buyer. You just did a deal without a buyer broker agreement.
Oh, snap.
But I mean, how often does a buyer reach out to you and say, let's write an offer on this house? I mean, it happens.
Yeah, like
It happens.
once or twice.
Happens to me all the time.
Out of the past hundreds of deals.
Yeah, right. Especially if they don't want to sign with anybody, like they're just like, you know, they're being very choosy, and like a buyer that just goes to open houses on the weekends and calls all the listing agents just to get into the house.
There are
you know?
people like that.
If somebody does that and then they're ready to put an offer, but they need somebody, then that that can happen. I think it's rare, so I think that's not a valuable thing to talk about today, but.
Hey,
Let's
Curtis,
talk about
we all have places to be.
The actual agreement.
Curtis,
Yeah.
we all have places to be. If you could just get to the point.
Oh, I know what you're doing here.
Oh,
I know what you're doing here.
It's gold.
Yeah.
So how about we just start off with like actually defining what an actual buyer broker agreement is?
and I would say like what needs to be in the buyer broker agreement or in the written agreement that you now have to have in order to show property.
There you go.
If you're a buyer in the marketplace, you can no longer look at properties without having a written agreement signed with an agent, unless you call every single listing agent and or go to open houses. Which, for those of you agents that have been anti-open houses, I would get.
I'm doing them every Sunday.
I would get back on the open house train if you haven't been. We've always taught open houses, but I think they're going to be even more lucrative now because buyers that aren't going to be signing those agreements are going to be, hesitant to. They might just go to a few open houses first, and that's your opportunity to win them over.
And that's going to be across the country.
I can't
Oh, yeah.
believe I can't believe people have not been sitting open houses all these years.
Because
It's kind of sad.
I can show you one example of one buyer I picked up at an open house, and I made over $30,000 from that one open house.
You know, when Brooke and I have trained agents in other marketplaces and in other states, and it's funny because these agents think that they can get away with telling us that their market is different, and that's why that they don't do open houses.
Yeah.
And they say, "Oh, well, my market doesn't do we don't do open houses out here." And it's like, we could easily say that about our, because if you look up the MLS and you look at the
Yeah.
percentage of houses that do open houses,
For
it's
one every 20 or 30
Right.
houses, it seems like. Yeah.
yeah. So no, if you have a listing, you can do an open house.
And you know
Even
what
if
happens
you
when
don't have a listing,
And you know what
you can
happens
still
when your
do an open
house
house.
isn't selling? Your clients are always going, man, they're not even sitting. They didn't even sit an open house.
oh,
And it's like, well, that's weird because with me and my team, we sit them every Sunday. You know.
Yeah. Well, I will say this before we get started into defining the buyer broker agreement. Something that I have heard, I was listening to a pretty prestigious national coach out there. Don't want to drop any names because then, you guys might run to them. Just kidding. But
Was it Bob Stoops?
not going to say it. Not
knew
going to
it.
say it. No. National real estate
Everyone can
coach.
run to him.
Real estate
Real estate,
coach.
sorry, my
Direct
mind is not
competitor.
there.
Direct competitor for us here. But
I know who you're talking about.
they said, no, it's not that person. They said, but you probably could guess out of the few big names out there. Anyways, I listened to a podcast, and one of the things that they talked about was, and we'll mention this at our training this weekend, is it's more important now than ever before as an agent to understand your value proposition. The way that we have been telling our agents is, I've always been saying, like, now's the time to differentiate yourself in the marketplace. And I think value proposition is just another alternative way of saying that. And I love saying it that way because what's your value? Quit complaining about the changes and go show the world why you are valuable as a real estate agent, unless you don't think you're valuable as a real estate agent, and then you might struggle. But buyer's agents always complained when listing agents would be offering less than 3% commission. They used to, and people would complain and talk about it, and they would never do anything about it. But now you are in complete control of what you believe you are worth as a buyer's agent. You're worth 3%? Well, then go convince a buyer that you are worth 3%, regardless of whatever the listing agent tries to tell you that you're worth. And how are you going to get someone to sign a 3% compensation agreement with you or buyer broker agreement with you? Well, that's up to you, right? That's where you got to determine what's your value. And that's what I love about this new system is I love that everything has been separated out and decoupled, as they say, because there's dozens of options and strategies that you can implement as a realtor and how to be different, to pick up business, to offer something that your competition doesn't, so that people are more willing to choose you. Educate yourself on all of this stuff, because if you're not educated, then how are you going to come up with strategies? So value proposition, very important to come up with one. As you're talking to buyers and sellers, what are you telling them that's different than what they're hearing from every other agent in the marketplace?
Well, if I tell you my answer, then everyone else will know.
Not saying you got to say the answer, but
Oh, I have no problem. I have no problem telling people what I'm going to say.
Yeah, you could tell everyone what you're going to say, and
they
still won't be able to execute it. Yeah,
right. I mean, I think it comes down to education is always the way to get clients. So, and there's always changes being made, whether it's just the market turning, or it's a law or policy or procedure within your office or within NAR, whatever it is. And your job is to educate them on how everything works. And so, for example, I think there's going to be different approaches, and my approach is always up front. Let me educate the person, give them all the information I know, now a lot of agents have problems with this because they think if I give someone like a seller too much information, and this has happened, then they'll go just list it for sale by owner. So they took everything I did and they cleaned up the house. They used the price I gave them, everything, and then they went for sale by owner. But those things are going to happen. So I'm not going to. I see agents withholding information from people because they don't want them to go do something on their own, but then they don't get any business anyways.
Yeah, like stop doing that. Just be confident. Find your like we're already saying, like figure out how to differentiate yourself and just go in there confidently, and it's going to happen. We're dealing with people, so you just never know if that person is going to take, and it could be something completely different. It couldn't even be what you educated them on. It could be the hat that you wore, and you wore an OSU hat and they're an OU fan.
Yeah,
and they could have not used you.
Stop trying to control outcomes. You have no idea how people are going to respond or react. Go in with your value proposition. Use it every single time. And I think you have a better chance of when you're educating people and telling them all that they have to do to get their house sold. I think you're more likely to make them feel inadequate to list their house and to realize, oh man, I didn't realize how much actually goes into it. I thought I was just going to have to put a sign in the yard because that's what the public thinks, and that I was going to get buyers calling me, every day, and I'm going to sell my house and not pay any commission.
Sometimes I'll talk to my clients and I'll be like, okay, hey, like let me just explain this to you like I explain it to like my other real estate agents. And then I go into detail just like I'm training an agent, and then they always love and appreciate it after that.
Yeah, I think my game will obviously continue to change, but for now, the question is, have you heard about the NAR settlement changes? And they're like, the what? And so that right there tells me, okay, here's my chance to explain.
What I like that what you add to yours, besides asking if they've heard about it, is because I don't know exactly how you word it, but you say something along the lines of, like, if you haven't, they're going to have an impact on you. It could cost you money if you don't know about it.
Yeah.
Are you interested in learning? Something like that. Just letting them know it's going to have an impact on.
It will affect you one way or another.
Yeah, whether you like it or not,
whether you know it or not.
It could not just affect your money. It could affect your time as well.
Yeah, so I break it down and tell them exactly how the changes will affect the listing agent, the buyer's agent, and the clients. And then I tell them, I say, because this lady last weekend told me, she's like, I've been to 5 open houses today, and you're the first person that's brought this up. So nobody else, everyone just wants to,
business as usual. It's going to be the same. Nothing's really changing.
Well, and you still have to make the relationship.
I said, this is what you need to be aware of. Like, I would love to work with you. I may or may not have already gotten their information, still working on that. But what most agents are going to do is it's going to be like a sign call. You're going to say, hey, can I come see your home? You're going to take them out there, and then they're going to have a piece of paper in front of you and say, I need you to sign this or I can't let you in the door.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be very last minute. And
people are not going to like that.
They're not going to like it, and they're going to get stuck in 3-month or 6-month agreements.
Yeah.
Or they'll just say, don't worry about it, just sign it. It's
think
only,
they have to pay.
I'm going to do it for
$500
$500, and then we can worry about it later. And what you want your clients to know is you need someone who knows how to negotiate. And if someone is willing to show you houses for free, they can't even negotiate enough to feed their own family. What makes you think they're going to fight for your, for what you need?
Well, let's talk about that too, because, and then we'll get into like what the buyer broker agreement is.
Yeah, let's just get on with it.
But there's going to be agents, again, every strategy is going to be different, and some agents are going to, use the strategy of, I'm just going to make it a low buyer broker, a commission amount, so I can get them to sign the document. And then I will modify the document before I make an offer to get the 3%. Now, 2 reasons why I think everybody should be, caution themselves from doing that. Okay, we already know that the DOJ is against the settlement, right? I shouldn't say that they're against it, because obviously they approved it and that they're fine with how it is now. But they really pushed back, and they felt like that we weren't doing enough. Okay. Essentially, there's a lot of people out there that want to eliminate sellers from being able to pay buyer agent commissions even if they want to. Okay, if that happened, it would be disastrous for our economy and for buyers in general. I think that home prices would drop significantly if that ever did happen, which would then be a net loss in my opinion, because I think they would drop by more than what you would have paid in commission. But despite all of that, okay, if we come in with these low buyer broker agreements and then adjust them based on the seller offering 3%, they've removed that option from the buyer broker agreement. And so if your office gets audited and your agents are doing that, are practicing that like all the time, okay, you're just asking for another potential lawsuit because you are now, back-ending these changes. That's one reason why you should consider not, using that as a strategy. Okay. The other reason I think is actually more important than, obviously nobody wants to be in a lawsuit, no office, and in our industry we don't want to be in another one. But and I could be way wrong in that. It may not open a door for a lawsuit. I just think that it goes against the essence of what this settlement was about. And we don't want to give the DOJ any ammunition. But more importantly is, Brooke, let's say that you are working with a buyer. They don't want to sign a buyer broker agreement. And you say, listen, I understand it's a commitment. We are going to try to get the seller to cover it, but there is a chance that they won't. How about this? If it makes you feel comfortable, let's just do a flat, $500 commission, and then we go look at houses, and then once we find out that the seller's offering 3, we can then modify it. Buyer says, okay, I'll sign it. Sounds easy enough. Sounds like a good strategy. The reason
makes it easy for you to get someone to sign something.
It makes it very easy to get someone to sign something. But the reason why you don't want to do that is because, one, to Casey's point, you're already devaluing yourself as an agent.
Yes.
But let's say you come across a listing, and you're going to come across several listings in the marketplace like this. Your buyer, this is it. This is the house that they want. They have to have this house. You call the listing agent, and the listing agent says, "We're not paying any kind of buyer agent commissions. Sorry, you're on your own."
It sounds like you are too.
Yep, sounds like yeah. And you now have an agreement that you signed with an expiration date. And if they want to put an offer in on this house, then
you just made $500.
You just did all of that work for $500. Right. You probably lost money on that deal because it's just not enough based on depending on how much you drove and the time investment in it,
emotions,
all of it. So you risk, putting yourself in a situation where you're going to have to write an offer, and that's what you're going to get paid. So be very, very careful what you put in that agreement, because you could be shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, and I think too, realtors, we've always been, especially when you're newer and you're not selling a lot, like you just want anything to work, and every single client is just detrimental to your outcome, and you're just so worried about that one person. So how I'm going to approach it is, we're going to sign a 3% agreement, and if I still want to show the houses without compensation agreement, because if
without cooperative compensation, you mean without ones that aren't offering a commission?
Yeah. And so I want to still show that, because if it's like a for sale by owner, it's like if they're tough, and then you go, oh, they're tough, I'm not going to follow up with them. Well, the one who does is the one who gets the listing. And so if I'm the only one now who's going to this seller, now it might take some extra time. It might take an extra week or two, because they may not be willing, but then they might realize that they've just turned everyone off, and they might come around. And so what I'm going to tell my buyer is like, look, you don't have to agree to pay me anything. I mean, you don't have to agree to close on this house. Like if we put in an offer, if we give them a full price offer, this is your home, and you've agreed to pay me 3%, and we put the offer in, I put the compensation agreement in to go ahead and try to get myself paid, and they say no, well, then we just move on down the road.
There's always going to be another house. I can't tell you how many times I've had buyers get like sad and disappointed that they missed out on a house, whether it was because it was multiple offers, or it wouldn't work because of commission, or whatever the reason is, and or sellers change their mind and they're not moving, and whatever. It seems like so many times when we find them that next house, it just so happens to be, I'm so like, this one's way better than the one we thought was the one. You know?
Right.
It almost happens every time. And maybe, I don't know if it's a psychological thing they're convincing themselves of. Like, they're always comparing every house they go to the one that was the one, you know? And then when they find the next one, it's like, oh man, this one's it. You know?
Yeah, and here's where you're protected too, because if you have an agreement signed with them on that address or in that time span, well, they can't just go out around you and go hire another agent to represent them for free. Like, you're tied to that property because you're being protected with your buyer brokerage agreement. So this is a positive thing that's come out of it, and you got to also take yourself out of this and not feel guilty that they can't get the house they want. It's not your fault.
Yeah, I see a lot of agents talking like that.
Yeah, it's not your fault the seller's not offering compensation. It's their fault.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so get over and tell the buyer, like, hey, sorry,
I can't work for free.
This ain't going to work.
Yeah,
like, and I can't work for free.
Yeah,
and now it doesn't matter because you have an agreement signed.
And my services obviously have benefited you because I've made myself available to show you houses. I'm available to write your contract for you. I'm going to help you get through the whole process. I mean, there is a lot to real estate that I think that people don't understand.
The part that bothers me is that it's the comment or the thought that they have of, well, what's the worst that could happen?
What do you mean?
Like writing a contract for, just getting, they don't understand how difficult the process can be.
Oh yeah.
So they're just thinking like you're just opening doors. Is essentially what people are thinking.
Yeah, that's the public's perception. And if it was so easy, again, I like to go back to the fact that 90% of the people that attempt to do this, they fail.
Yeah.
And so if it was that easy, then a lot more people would be successful in doing it. Mm-hmm. And so
I think that's higher than just small businesses in general.
Yeah, I wouldn't know for sure, but you're probably right.
I think I read something that small businesses is like 80% at least. I mean, it's not far off from us, but still.
Yeah.
I'd be okay doing it hourly too.
What do you mean?
Like, hey, I charge $100 an hour. You want to go look at the house?
Yeah.
Let's do it. And then you pay me.
Do I get paid overtime? Because I'm charging a lot of overtime.
Well, I mean, you'd have to go over 40 hours. But no, you're not a W-2 employee, so there would be no overtime.
It wouldn't matter because you're getting paid enough to not worry about that. And if someone wants to go look at 1,000 houses, well, I am banking. And they don't even get to close.
Well, now you're happy to show them.
Oh, yeah. I got you.
But
that's the point. Yeah.
That's why I love this, because those are strategies you can employ. You can ask for an initial deposit up front to, like, as you become like super valuable in your marketplace, you can say, you want me to represent you.
I have a retainer fee.
I have a retainer fee because I'm backed up for people who want to use my services. Like, that's how valuable you want to be in your marketplace.
I like that.
I do think that you will, if you start charging retainer fees and hourly fees, and you're not that person in the marketplace that has that high demand yet, I think you're going to lose business.
Just go out there and educate people. That's the best way, I think, to do it.
Yep. And make it based on the percentage of the sale in most cases, until you've made a name for yourself and people are calling you and saying, hey, I've heard that you've done a great job for so-and-so. They've referred me to you. And it's like, yeah, I have a lot of interest in my services. So because of that, I do charge XYZ, and you can start setting your own prices. Again, I think I probably talked about this on the podcast before in other episodes, but there's a listing agent, one of the top producers in New Mexico. Every listing is 7%. No questions. If they don't agree to 7%,
they don't have to work with him.
He doesn't list, but he has to be willing to walk away, and he is, because he gets that much business. People call him, and he tells them, listen, if you want me to list your property and negotiate your price, it's 7%. I don't waver from that, and that's a guy who has completely established his value and dominance in his local market, and that's what we're all aiming to do with these changes on both the buy side and on the listing side. But buyer broker agreement, what's required to be in this written document, whether it's called a buyer broker agreement or not?
I know.
You guys know?
No,
I don't know.
I haven't read it yet.
I was like, I hope you're asking Casey.
Yeah. So really, there's three things that you got to have in your written agreements.
Duration.
So I can just pull up a Word document,
Look
slap
at
a
you.
logo on it.
Yep, you could. As long as your brokerage is okay with it and your state is okay with it, right?
Just bring some napkins
disclosure
with you.
there.
Yeah. Can I do that?
You can.
I can draw a logo.
A napkin that's signed by both parties is enforceable as long as it meets the rules of a contract.
And it doesn't get wet.
Yeah, don't let it get wet. You better protect it.
Don't blow your nose on it.
Yeah.
Put it
Decisions. Hard
yeah,
decisions.
Yeah, right. Oh, man. Do I want this 3% commission or do I keep my nose running?
Yeah.
Shoot. What do I do?
I'll do what my kid does. I'll use my shirt.
Yeah, there you go. Duration is one. Good job, Casey.
Thanks, man.
Duration is one. You got to have a duration of how long the agreement is for. Brooke, any other guesses?
Probably talking something about commission.
Commission.
Compensation.
Yeah. The rest is
broker.
compensation. So like you got to have a definable commission amount from all income sources.
So from a penny on up?
Yep. It could be anything as long as the exact compensation. It could be zero. As long as it's defined that you are going to make nothing on it, right? But it has to be defined like what you are getting paid for your services. And you better be prepared to write an offer for whatever it is that you put in that deal. And then the last thing is you guys will see this on a lot of documents now, and even the internal ones that we've created, we've made sure to put this statement. And this might not be word for word, but you basically have to let everyone know that commissions are not set by law and that they are negotiable.
Everything's negotiable. Is what I say. Even anything in the contract, you can change the verbiage or whatever you want.
Well, not whatever you want, as long as you know.
My lawyer says it's okay.
Yeah, and your brokerage and your state. I'm going to keep saying that too.
I'm over here get Curtis sued.
Well, you'd be part of it too.
No, I'm too terrified. I'd be like, that's true.
Well, you're a part owner, so you would be a part of it.
Anyways,
this is also going to make buyer consultations more important as well. Because the thing is, if you talk to someone in a hurry, they're going to struggle with it more and feel forced, and they'll always come back on you and be like, they made me do it, blah, blah, blah. So,
and I like that.
You like what?
I like having more buyer consultation. I tried doing that as a new agent, but then, as things, you get better. It's just
it's hard.
How to do it over the phone or do it at the first showing. But I think it's more important to sit down and have that talk, just like you would with a seller. That
could be your value proposition. Like, listen, I want to make sure I understand exactly what you're looking for and what your needs are, what you're qualified for before I just start sending you houses and taking you all over the state. Like, we could save a lot of time if we sit down, have a conversation about, what it is you're looking for, what your needs versus wants are, and then I can go and try to find it for you.
Yeah, and I think that I will probably take a little bit of risk on like sign calls. So if they want to see a property, typically I'm kind of unpopular opinion is I don't really care who it is. I just want to meet them at the property because
No, that should be a good opinion.
Because a lot of people say, "Oh well, your efficiency goes down," and
but
I'm like, you never know. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know what it's going to turn into. Yeah, sure, it's a numbers game. A lot of times, you'll never hear back from the person.
But also, too, your chances of them using you as a realtor goes up by 70%,
right,
just because you met them
and educate them on the process. So now, what I'm going to have to say is, "Hey, look, I know you want to go see this property in a hurry, and I am available tonight." But if you don't have 20 minutes to chat with me real quick, there are some changes, and I am going to have something for you to sign before we go in. Do you want to talk about that now or when we get there?
Ooh, I like that. You give them
choice,
options.
and so then when we get there, it's like 3% sign here.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I asked him, right? Like, I asked you if you had 20 minutes. You said no.
Yeah, I think meeting anyone and everyone, getting in front of them is super valuable to what Brooke said, but also
it sucks when it's cold outside, but you know what?
It will. But if you're the one out of the 5 or 10 agents that was willing to do it, well then I think your chances go up by more than 70%.
Just wear thermal underwear and like a beanie And then they'll be standing outside the door, freezing their ass off. They'll be like, "I'll sign anything. Just let me in there."
Yeah, and
it just went up to 4%.
Yeah.
That's right.
I would like to say this too. I one of my biggest pet peeves these days. It really gets under my skin.
Does it really grind your gears?
It grinds my gears, you guys. Like it. The fact is that I feel like, and I don't know if this is America, if this is the rest of the world right now, like just because of all the technology and how we seek comfort and things like that. But we are in a customer service industry. So our number one job is customer service.
And people don't know what that means anymore.
No.
Not even our industry.
It really.
It's all over.
It really it really pisses me off. Like when our job is our number one priority is customer service to our whoever the customer is. So many, whether it's a vendor, whether it's retail, like so many people just provide poor customer service because they're simply there to clock in, clock out, and get a check and just do the bare minimum so that they can get paid and move on to the next person. Well, when you're building a business and you're building a brand and a reputation,
there is no clock in, clock out.
There is no clock in, clock out.
There's do not disturb.
It goes a long way. And in this industry, everyone is self-employed. You guys, everyone is building a brand. It doesn't matter what your brokerage is, you're still building your own personal identity, your personal brand within your marketplace.
Right.
Your name alone and the presence you have on social media, that's what people are going to notice more so than whatever company that you're with. And that's what I wish people understood more of. It's like you don't have to go start your own company and get this logo and all this stuff. Granted, I think that people who do that, it's fine, but just your name alone
is your brand.
Is your brand. Even if you create a actual brand, your name is what carries you through the marketplace, because that's what people will know. That's how you're going to be referred.
You're the product.
Yeah.
People don't say. I take that back. I'm sure some people say, "Hey, you should reach out to someone at Bricks, right?" But for the most part, people are saying, "Hey, you should call Brooke. You should call Casey." Mm-hmm. That's what they're saying.
Right. So, well, in those agents, they're saying call are building the Bricks brand as well.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So anyways, great. What's next?
I was like, what about different we've talked a little bit about different techniques, but specifically with compensation with buyers and sellers, maybe how to save money and what to look out for.
I think that everything's going to start with your ability to set expectations. And if you can set proper expectations, it makes difficult conversations so much easier when you have to have them. If you're letting sellers, if you tell a buyer that we're going to have the seller cover your commission, okay, and you don't tell them that there's a chance that they might not, or that the listing agent is not offering cooperative compensation, and that they're now going to be on the hook for this commission, or they're not going to be able to get the house, they're not going to be happy with you.
No. Especially with the numbers and money.
Oh, for sure. You just and it's a lot of money. The reason why we have such a bad reputation in the general public's eyes is because they feel like what we do is not. They feel like we don't do very much, but what we make is massive. Mm-hmm. And there's there's low barriers to entry, so we get a lot of unprofessional people in our industry that make the professional agents look bad.
I always say that.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. But I think that's probably the most important skill set for an agent to learn with buyer broker agreement, listing agreement, anything, is setting expectations and going over the aspect. Back to education, right? How does this process work? What's your goal as a buyer? Can they even ask good questions? If you are if you find a house that you like and they're not offering a commission, are you in a position to pay the commission? right?
The good thing is they don't know. They, as the consumer, don't really know up front.
Know what up front?
If the seller is going to pay a commission or not. We have to find that out.
Usually
for them. Yeah. Obviously, unless they're calling all the listing agents.
Yeah, we're going to have to find that out. And but you got to have that conversation with them as a good buyer's agent and find out for yourself, like, hey, I'm going to give people options. Because I was having this conversation with our managing broker in Florida. She's going to call every single listing before she shows it, because she feels, and I think it's a very valid argument, she feels that she could be wasting her buyer's time if they cannot afford the commission and we're showing them houses that aren't offering a commission. And
sure.
but what I think we should do is, again, set the expectation. Let the buyer choose.
Yeah.
Give them the option.
Power's in the choice, man.
Yeah, and one thing I've said is, as a seller, we see this all the time, even with FSBOs. No, I'm not paying a commission. I'll never pay a commission. Never, ever, ever. And then all of a sudden, there's a bona fide offer in front of their face, signed, and it's like all you gotta do is accept it. But guess what? There's a 3% commission on there. It's like, and then they look at the net and they're like, where do I sign? Right. And now all of a sudden they're paying an offer in hand changes people's perspective. So I let my buyers know even if they're not offering a compensation, we can still ask for it. Okay.
Yeah.
So as the buyer, knowing that there's a risk that we could be going and looking at houses that we can't get, do you still want to? Yes. Great. Then as a customer service agent, you better go show those houses, in my opinion.
Well, you'll get showings lined up quicker if that's the approach you choose, because otherwise you're going to have to tell your buyer, hey, look, if we go the other route where I call all the agents first, we may not even get calls back from the ones who will. For example, I showed $1 million house last week, and the instructions were the listing agent was, call me when you're at the gate and I'll let you in.
Oh, gosh.
The asshole didn't even answer his phone, and we had to wait 20 minutes. My clients were pissed.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's like, so that's just a prime example of like, they're not going to call you back.
They might not. And if you want to go look at 5 houses and you have to try to get a hold of all 5, and
then you have other appointments later.
Yeah, you might
only look at 2 out of 5 when all 5 were willing.
Well, obviously you're going to try to and set those appointments in advance. You're not going to set them like as you're going and looking at them, but if they're wanting to look tomorrow, you might not get a call back in time, and so now your showings went from 5 down to 3. And if you just schedule them, go and show them, find out, honestly, from my perspective, I'll give these options to my buyer, but I could care less if the seller's offering it or not. I'm submitting my offer with what my value. Yeah, and they can say yes or no at that point.
Yeah, and I think I started this comment earlier and I didn't finish it, and it's like, if you're worried about that one client, like something happening to it, you don't have enough clients.
Yeah,
and that's your first problem, because you're banking on the one.
You're
and
always going to lose.
They could
clients.
bail on you for all other kinds of reasons.
Yeah,
we're not moving anymore. Grandma got sick. I mean, you never know.
You always lose clients for whatever reason. You can't control the outcome. Yeah, like we said.
Yeah. So set expectations. Have the conversations with buyers. Again, meeting with them is great. We've already talked about that. I will add this little tidbit of information. I think if anybody tries to say that they are 100% ready for all of this, and by the time you guys hear this, we might all be in this industry, like in this new changes where we're having to do this. But if anyone says that they're 100% ready and that they all know everything that's going on, well, red flag. I proceed with caution with that individual or broker or whatever, because we are all learning in this new environment. There's not a single person who has the answers to every scenario.
No.
My argument is just last week, before we're in the old way of doing business, and I get calls all the time of situations that I'm like, how did you come up with that situation and scenario? Like, how did you manage to get yourself?
And why is it always you?
Yeah, right. Yeah, like here we go again. It's Ben. I'm just kidding. Yeah. Love you, Ben. But But how on earth did you get yourself in this situation? Well, we got to figure a way through this, and we brainstorm and we talk through it, and we call other leaders and we call other brokers sometimes, and it's like, hey, how would you fix this or get through this?
Right.
So I can tell you with certainty that we're going to have scenarios that we're like, oh, I didn't even think about that.
I feel like we're gonna have increased questions for a while for sure.
Oh well.
I know I'm gonna be an increased questioner because I have a question after this podcast.
Well, we already have 2 markets that are currently in this new world, and the questions have increased significantly. I will say though, it's been very positive to see the buyers that know our value and have our backs.
Yes.
Because there was a buyer earlier in the week, I think the one that we just put under contract, possibly in Tulsa.
Okay.
Yeah, his buyer. It might be a different one. I don't know. But buyer had absolutely refused to sign a buyer broker agreement. Did not want to, and that's fine. If they refuse, guess what? We can't show them houses. I really hope if you're an agent out there that you don't try to
show houses
without the signed buyer broker agreement.
Yeah, because
there will be people.
There's going to be
people are going to tell on you. I mean,
as soon as someone finds out,
when you're a realtor, nobody else cares about you.
No,
as a realtor.
Yeah,
because it's every man for themselves, which I appreciate, but I also
every realtor for themselves, and the client is going to be. It's always in their best interest.
I mean, I do think that we need to hold other agents accountable if they're especially if they're going to be skirting the rules like this, where we're trying to keep it a competitive, fair playing field. That's what a market is for.
Right.
So anyone who wants to try to cheat it should be punished.
Ask them a question, because there's probably a lot of agents out there that actually don't even know most of this that's going on.
Right.
Because some brokerages aren't teaching this to
I know they don't know because I've asked people.
Yeah,
100%.
And so
100%. Yeah.
There's no harm in just saying, hey,
they think they know.
Do you know X, Y, and Z, whatever the situation may be? Some people don't like confrontation, though, so that may be an issue.
A lot of people don't like confrontation.
And they'll just go tell on them.
Yeah, I feel I've heard people say, no, my broker has done an amazing job of preparing us and getting us ready, and then I ask a question, and then the way they answer, I'm like, oh. Well, I don't think your broker knows what's going on. Yeah, or you weren't listening.
Which is highly probable.
Very probable.
Yeah.
But anyways, I don't remember what I was even saying. The point is that the last point I think I made was that we don't know everything, and should never try to say that we do.
No.
There's always room to learn, improve.
I agree.
And it's and real estate's constantly changing. It will always be changing, and it's up to you. Don't rely just on your broker and brokerage to keep you informed of everything. Obviously, you should be somewhere where that the broker takes that responsibility seriously.
Mm-hmm.
But you have a brand, you have a business and a reputation.
You're an
to
entrepreneur.
Hold. Yeah.
So
you should be doing it for yourself. Like you are also in the same boat as the broker. Like the problem is the mindset of how people think. They don't view themselves as that. It's like just start acting like this. Like there's something to be said for dress like the position that you want, or just start acting like, if you want to be the CEO, just start acting like the CEO. I promise
that's
you.
That's what CEOs do.
Yes.
They're the person that
their
has
whole
to
life,
figure it all out.
Their whole life
Yes.
they've been that way, and that's how they got to that position.
Yep.
So you want to be the CEO? You be the CEO today. Make the choice to be the CEO, and I promise you, whatever company you're with, whether you're self-employed or at a corporation, they'll take notice, and you will get the promotion over your counterpart, and keep moving your way up. But if you don't see yourself as a CEO, as a supervisor, as whatever it is, then how would your company see you as that?
Well, even if that, like, if you don't believe it, you're never going to portray it either.
Yeah.
So
don't wait for somebody to tell you that that's what you are, that's what you've earned or deserve. You deserve it. Go take it. Go be it.
When you're the CEO, most of the time people don't give you compliments.
No.
So a lot of people don't. They forget that, or they're like a words of affirmation type person.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's hard to be CEO.
What a lot of people,
if you're words of affirmation,
Oh yeah.
Well, what a lot of people, like we were talking about this last time, is like Grant Cardone. He says, "Figure the F out," and what he means by that is
he paying us?
He should. He's got a pretty funny new ad out.
Yeah. Well, let's not be giving credit to him.
Well, the point is, I've noticed over recruiting hundreds of agents over time is that some people will not do anything until you tell them exactly what to do. So they go, oh, you got a YouTube channel? I want one. Can you help me create it? And it's like, well, no, because that takes hours and hours and hours.
Yes.
And I don't know what you want to do. I don't know if you're going to
follow through with it.
So
like you got to learn it all.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, you got to wear all the hats, right?
Yeah. You got to wear all the hats.
I'll guide you and I'll tell you what I did, but then you have to go do it. I'm not going to, we can't do it for you.
Well, and a lot of times if you do, like say you help them with a Facebook ad and you like actually sit there next to them and do it.
Then that's the rest.
That's the only ad they ever did.
Yeah.
You know, and they're like, because they're just waiting on you for the next time.
Yeah.
My first ever boss, I always loved his philosophy and how he trained all his employees, and he made every single employee go learn about a little bit of everything in the entire store, of every single job that's possible. Just learn a little bit. And he said, you learn that, then you're going to be basically prepared for almost any scenario at that point, or at least know some like guidance at that point. Entrepreneurship is nothing but that.
Yeah.
So you have to learn technology. You have to learn computers. You have to learn this. You have to learn people. You have to learn emotions. You have to learn what to say and what not to say. So you got to wear all the hats and learn all the things.
And got to be willing to screw some things up.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Not too bad. Not too bad, though.
Yeah, please, not too much.
Yeah.
Listen, you don't know what you don't know.
Well, then you got the
well, listen, if you don't know what you don't know, don't do something that you know you don't know.
Yeah,
or
so then you got that agent, too, that they just send the offer over. And
yeah.
I was saying, like,
no, I know.
If you kind of know, but then all of a sudden you just didn't know this one piece, and it's like, well, crap.
I mean, and that's why you got to be careful. Like, I think that when you're new, like, you better have someone review every single deal that you're about to send out. You know, and don't, if you've never actually written, even if you've had someone tell you, or you've heard how people do it, if you've never actually done something yourself, you get somebody to look over it before you actually send it out and get it signed. Because once people sign it, if you need to change it, you're going to not look like very smart if you go, hey, by the way, I did this wrong. We got to include this in it.
Yes.
You know? Now, some people are understanding and have grace, but if you do that with the wrong person, then...
And it's harder if you admit fault. So what I'll do is like, look, I'm an idiot. I totally forgot to do this. And then they're like, they might go, oh, yeah, you are an idiot, but I already admitted it, so it's not like it's going to hurt my feeling at that point.
Yeah. Try not to put yourself in those situations, though.
No.
But you will.
Yeah. So...
All right.
Guys?
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
It's over?
Are you ready to go sign some buyers into some written agreements or BBAs?
Would you rather be in the old way of doing business or the new way of doing business?
I don't know. That's my question, because I have to go to a FISBO after this without Jennifer.
Because I've already picked up buyers because of it.
I like the new way.
I may have picked up the buyers anyways. I don't know, but
I feel like I am going to like the new way because it's going to be simpler.
I think it will increase my open house numbers. I really do.
I don't know if the new way is simpler, like, because I think
I
think that's what's good about it, because you're able to, if you know it, then you're ahead of the competition.
They have to listen now.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's not just like, hey, let me show you some houses.
Unless they want to go do a bunch of work. Yeah.
I just really like it because it forces other agents to also educate their clients, because sometimes I feel like doing deals like that's the biggest thing that those people miss sometimes.
Yeah.
So.
Well, all right. Well, thanks for listening.
It was good stuff today, and stay tuned for our next episode that we don't know what it's going to be about yet. But anyways.
But I will introduce myself last. We know that, right?
Yeah.
On the very next episode. And make sure you like, comment, subscribe, engage with the podcast. Yeah. Boy, this is uplifting for us when that happens, right?
And now I don't have to do the outro because Curtis did it for me.
Just call me.
Well, because I feel like you were missing it.